What's up guys, it's CG. So this is going to be a thorough review of Centaurus by the House of Creed. First, I'm going to give you guys a rundown so you have a general idea what the fragrance is about. Then I'm going to share how users rated the scent profile and the performance. My wife and I are going to share our impressions of it. And finally, I'm going to share my overall opinion after wearing it. Without further ado, let's get this started. To describe this fragrance, I would say it opens up with almost like a floral-like, powdery, kind of dirty smell that's difficult for me to describe, but it reminds me of old ladies or like a nursing home, and then it dries down to a very basic amber tobacco fragrance with a bit of an interesting edge to it. It becomes a lot more masculine, a lot more wearable in the dry down, but it also is pretty basic. The notes on their website indicate it's a complex fragrance. As far as how much users like the scent, it got an average rating of a 7.7. Almost half of users would give it an 8 or above, and almost half would give it a 7 or lower. So it's really split down the middle. Half of people think it's a good fragrance, half think it's mid at best. My personal rating, I would give this a 4. Not really a fan of it. I think the opening is just not my style. And then in the dry down, it becomes really basic to me and is not really that interesting, and it doesn't really have a whole lot of depth to it. For longevity, it got an average rating of a 7.8. The key votes being 7 or 8. About 3 out of 4 people would give it a 7 or an 8, and I'm kind of in that range as well. I feel like it lasts a good amount of time, but it was nothing like impressive, but it was nothing really bad either. It's just kind of in this weird gray area, so I would give it a 7. Sillage is the same story, got an average rating of a 7.4. Again, 3 out of 4 users would give it a 7 or an 8. I don't think there's anything impressive about the performance of this fragrance. I don't think it's bad. The scent is also pretty mid. So overall, it's a $545 fragrance that, if you look at the ratings, is rated pretty mid. Creed, whoever's running the company, I feel like they're running it into the ground. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not a business expert. They are my favorite niche house for what they've done in the past. But lately, I feel like they're a brand that's having a Britney moment. And I actually see brands like Mancera that have cheaper offerings is more prestigious than what Creed is becoming. All right, so I'm not out here to just say Centaurus sucks, it's trash. It's really not that dramatic for me. I just don't think it's really that good of a fragrance. And I think part of the reason that my mind goes there is just the way I compare it to other fragrances. On one end, I'm comparing it to fall and winter fragrances, things like Carlisle, Tony Iommi, 40 Knots, Naxos, just those fall winter options that kick in. And I think it just falls flat. I think there's just a ton of better options. Like, it's not even in my top 30 of things I would reach for. And on the other end, I'm comparing it to other Creeds. I'm comparing it to Aventus, Royal Oud, Basta Portugal, like some of the great Creeds, Silver Mountain Water and all those. And it's just falling flat there too. So it's just like this thing that in and of itself, I actually don't think it's a bad fragrance. I don't think it's horrible. I don't think it's something I would never wear or anything like that. But when I start comparing it and really understanding the price that it retails for over $500, it just starts falling flat. There's just so many things that I prefer to this. Even in that whole ambery vanilla style, I would so much rather have Grand Soir, Tuxedo, even Annie. Like, so many fragrances I'd prefer over this one. So the opening of Centaurus for me is a bit weird because it's like really hard to describe what it is, and it threw me off the first time I smelled it. And I actually made a video where I was like, I don't like this one, this is horrible. I took it down because I'm like, I'm gonna give this more of a chance. I'm gonna let other people give it a chance and let the data come out. And so I've been revisiting it lately, and it's the same reaction. I can't describe what it is, but it's something off-putting for me. If I had to describe it, I would say it's something almost powdery and floral somewhat, but it has like a dirtiness to it. And then I get like an amber vanilla, but that's like in the background of it, like this tobacco ambery vanilla. But really what's prominent in my face when I spray it is this powdery kind of floral, dirty smell. Like, if you're at a Dillard's, Creeds are at Dillard's now, spray this one and see what I'm talking about here, or definitely come in the comments and see if you can relate to this. I just get a weird powdery floral smell that I just don't like. I've realized now that my memory association is to a nursing home and to old ladies. Like, I'm gonna be bold in saying this because like I've heard it be called unisex by people I've showed it to, but I actually think on the opening this leans feminine and it leans mature. I actually think this smells like an old lady in the opening. Like if I were to, you ever around like an old lady that just sprays way too much perfume on and then you get hit in the face with it? That's what Centaurus smells like to me on the opening. Okay, that's only for the first 10-20 minutes though. As it dries down, that ambery vanilla comes in and starts blending with that old lady smell. And there's a period where I actually like it and understand it somewhat because I get an amber vanilla, and then with the old lady smell it becomes like a very royal sort of ambery vanilla smell. And I do like it when these things come into a good blend with each other. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, when would I wear this? Like it feels very formal, like very, very super formal. Like the only appropriate time to wear it would be if I was in a suit and tie. And if I was in a suit and tie, why would I wear Centaurus? There's a lot better options, at least for me out there. But it just has this very formal smell, and it becomes more unisex or masculine leaning, and then it becomes more and more masculine. So that part where it blends really well, that lasts about another 20-30 minutes, and then it becomes just this really flat, basic ambery vanilla with a bit of a unique character, but it's like the uniqueness is just so small. It's like almost as if you had an amber vanilla with a slight red velvet vibe somewhat, but it falls really flat, and people will say it smells expensive. In the dry down, like an hour and a half after application, when it becomes just that ambery vanilla, I actually think it smells kind of cheap to me. When I compare it to things like Grand Soir that are amber vanillas, but they're very opulent and they're very immersive and they have a lot of really good performance and they're really pushing out. This to me feels very flat and just kind of close to the skin and just kind of not really like there's a lot of complex blending going on here. So for me, this is just the worst Creed I've ever tried for my own personal taste. I understand other people really like this one. Fragrance is so subjective. You should just try it for yourself. If I smelt this on the air coming off of somebody, I would think they smell good. Like for real, like the only offensive smell that I've really smelt coming off of anybody is body odor. And to me, this isn't like a totally out of place fragrance. I'd probably wonder what you're wearing and think it smells good. I don't think it smells like feminine or anything like that. Just in that opening, I do think it has an old lady vibe, and I'd probably be like, that's an interesting choice. But that only lasts for like 10-20 minutes. I think Creed is just a nosedive company at this point. I'm not looking forward to any of their releases. I've tried Delphinus, not like a huge fan of that either. The way that they're pumping out things with weird Greek mythology names like Carmina or Centaurus or Delphinus, like it's clear, and they changed the bottle design. It's clear the company is a different company now, and they're just slapping their label on things and charging $500 for them. So if that's what you want to do, it's a choice. But for me, I'm kind of moving on from Creed. They're my favorite niche house, but they're my favorite for what they've done in the past. Definitely moving forward, I'll try the new Creeds at Dillard's, but I don't really care anymore. I'm kind of done with them, to be honest. So there is a bit of bitterness, and it's creating a bit of a bias here. And as a reviewer, I have to express that, because fragrance, a lot of it is psychology, a lot of it. And when you feel burnt by a company, it does change the way you smell things. So maybe if Centaurus was released by a company I respect, I would actually like it more than I do. But that does play into my opinion on this fragrance for sure. It's almost as if like you're a big fan of Willie Nelson and then he comes out with the rap album. You're like, oh, it's actually a decent rap album, but I just can't bring myself to liking it. It's like, this isn't even a Creed. It's like they've done really good classic, definitively masculine fragrances, and now they're coming out with this. And to me, it's like, this isn't Creed, and I'm a fan of Creed, so yeah, I don't like it. And it feels like a bit of a betrayal from the company, and now they're just pumping out fragrances left and right. The releases don't feel special to me, and I'm kind of over it.
Because what I'm getting right now is basically like scented paper. Unless it's supposed to be one of those fragrances that, I'm not wearing perfume. Not a perfume. My memory from it is potpourri. I don't know how everybody say it, but if you know, you know. There was like a dry flowers thing, like dry flowers and dry woods thing that in the 90s our moms used to have like in the house. It smells like that a little bit.
Yeah, it's very faint.
Do you get the potpourri?
Yeah, it's very faint.
It just smells like potpourri or potpourri, like we call it. My mom used to have bowls of that stuff around the house. It was decorative, I guess. And that's what I get. So, until further exploration, as of right now, I give it a 5.
Would you say it's unisex? Or what?
It could be because it's so soft and you just smell like dry flowers and wood. So that's not necessarily a masculine man or a feminine woman. It's just a scent.
Do you think there's like baby powder?
Yeah, there is. Now that you mention it.
Like flowery or baby powder kind of smell?
Yeah, a little baby powder, but I'm just set on the potpourri note.
Do you think it's mature or young?
Definitely mature. Like if you're a young dude, this ain't it for you. Leave this to, honestly, I don't want to exaggerate, but 50 and up. Easy, 50 and up.
Not a fan.
No, I give it a 5.
So my overall opinion of Centaurus is obviously it's not for me. Definitely not one I would reach for. And if you're going to try Creed, this isn't one of the first ones I would recommend trying because it doesn't smell like Creed. I would go for their classics like Aventus, Green Irish Tweed, Royal Oud, and then smell this and tell me that there's not a huge difference. But yeah, feel free to comment with y'all's opinions on Centaurus. Subscribe for future content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.